I was 30 years old, fully employed as a writer-producer on a network primetime series, and arrogant as hell. Hard to believe if you know me, right? Football was by far my favorite sport, having played since I was in the 8th grade. I was also a devoted Los Angeles Raiders season ticket holder since the day they relocated from Oakland. My favorite player was running back Marcus Allen, but still far behind my childhood idol, the unstoppable Jim Brown, running back for the Cleveland Browns. I would attend games in LA, a rowdy scene to say the least. I would bet with my friends whether the next fight would be to the left or right of our section. Anyway, the 1983-84 team was quite good that season with a 12-4 regular season record. They won the AFC and would face the Washington Redskins in the Super Bowl. As a Raiders season ticket holder, I won the right to buy 2 tickets to the Super Bowl list price. The Super Bowl rotates cities, and this year the game was to be held in Tampa Bay, Florida. Aha! A great idea hit my feeble brain. I've been to several Super Bowls in Los Angeles, the Rose Bowl, and never had a problem finding tickets on the day of the game with hundreds of sellers holding tickets in the air. So here was my brilliant and foolproof scheme. I would sell my 2 tickets at a huge profit to a broker, and then use the proceeds to fund my adventure to Tampa Bay. Airfare, hotel, and a trip to famed Burns Steakhouse from the profits from my sale. All went well, including my visit to Burns, where I quickly realized that almost all the fans were from Washington. I got into a heated debate at the bar about the outcome of the game. The Raiders had lost in the regular season to Washington, but Marcus Allen was injured and did not play. And Joe Theismann was their godlike quarterback. I wanted to bet these loudmouth delusional fans, but I realized collecting post-game would be an issue. On Super Bowl Sunday, I got to the stadium about 90 minutes before kickoff. I suddenly realized it was a disaster. As I got out of the cab, I saw the stadium for the first time and realized it was entirely Washington fans, many of whom were circling the venue looking for tickets. No scalpers, nobody holding tickets in the air. It was a real seller's market. It then occurred to me why I had been so spoiled in the past. The Rose Bowl held 90,000 people. Tampa Bay Stadium was a normal NFL venue that held about 50,000. What the fuck? The turnstiles were literally manned by little old white-haired ladies from the regular season. Their average age had to be about 80. Because of this, ticketless fans were jumping the turnstiles to enter the game. But I was not willing to risk having flown all this way just to get arrested. I was more than bummed as I started to realize I might be watching the game in my hotel room a few miles from the game itself. I was indeed the arrogant fool. As I peered through the metal gates from the turnstiles, the clock was ticking down to game time. I had no plan B. Then a young guy approached me from the other side of the high gates. He was already inside, so I asked if I could have his ticket stub to get into the game. He replied that he had something much more valuable, a yellow ARA-served vendor's vest. Every vendor selling beer, soda, and hot dogs wore them, and there were hundreds working the game. He offered to sell it to me for 50 bucks. I quickly agreed, as it was less than 10 minutes before kickoff, but there was another problem. I was wearing a Raider black hat, Raider t-shirt, and my Sony headset that I used to listen to play-by-play during the game. Not exactly a matching outfit for a peanut vendor. I spotted a cardboard box and asked the seller guy inside to grab it for me. I trotted into the parking lot, put all the Raider gear in the box, and donned the vendor's vest, which didn't even have a badge with a server number. I took a deep breath. I could hear Barry Manilow singing the national anthem. And then I saw a squadron of fighter jets buzz the stadium to the roar of the crowd. The old stadium was shaking as the jets could buzz very low altitude back then. As I approached the end zone, I discovered an even bigger problem. About 40 law enforcement officers were schmoozing and waiting for the game to start. There were 5 different uniforms. Local PD, sheriff's deputies, highway patrol with their Smokey the Bear hats. I was truly nervous, wondering if I was going to be watching the game not from the stands or my hotel room, but from a jail cell that might not even have a TV. What the double fuck? But just at that moment, I saw my opening. The Florida State University marching band was marching right out of that gate. Another deep breath, then I walked boldly right at the pool of cops with a cardboard box under my arm shouting, coming through, I have the mustard, I'm coming through. And like in the Bible, the cops parted like the Dead Sea and Moses getting to the promised land. It worked. The first thing I see is the guy from inside who sold me the vest taking a picture of me to record my accomplishment. He said, now I could sell the vendor's vest to the next guy and recoup my 50 bucks. I declined, instead gave it back to him to sell again. He was beyond delighted. As I entered the stadium, I could see hundreds of gate jumpers sitting on the steps of the aisles, again, something that could never happen today. I decided instead to plant myself under a wooden CBS camera platform that protruded at the 40-yard line. It was a perfect spot to watch the game. My arrogance and my swagger had returned. The game was a blowout, and Marcus Allen running all over Washington, and Jack Swire, a journeyman linebacker, making a huge interception. The score at the half was 21-3. Disgruntled Washington fans were exiting in droves as I thought back to those begging to bet me at Bar Burns. At halftime, I spotted an empty seat right next to my childhood idol, NFL legend Jim Brown. What the triple fuck? The greatest NFL running back had quit the game to act in movies. I introduced myself and we instantly became friendly once I told him he was a writer and producer of network television. I told him the wild and harried story of how I ultimately got into the game. He said I was nobody's fool. Well, who's to argue with the greatest player in NFL?